when I create the text layer, I go to T first of all, and here I'm gonna be taking to my text tool. Now here you have to be sure that you are on the proper tool, because if I choose, for example, horizontal type tool and I type something like this, horizontal type for example, I just wrote this, it will be added on its own layer automatically. Now there is something else we can do. If you go to vertical type and you type, it's gonna be like this. So it's not horizontal anymore, it's vertical, because I chose the vertical type tool, which is found here. Now there is another two options actually, which will not create a new layer for you, and these are the horizontal type mask and vertical type mask. If let's say that I hide these and I'm in the background and I type T, okay, here I'm creating a mask or a selection and not an actual layer. So if I type mask, here I'm taken to the quick mask mode, which is found there. If I go back to my standard mode, I will see that the text is now actually a selection and it will not be added on a new layer. It's still gonna be on the selected layer. Okay, so let's say that I have a new layer and I have an image. Yeah, it will go away in 2 seconds. Yeah. So let's say now that I'm here and I try to move this there, I'm not gonna get anything because the selection was empty. If I had something over here, so I'm just coloring this with the brush, and I would take it somewhere else, then I would get something else. So you have to make sure that you're in the proper layer when you take from one to another, and you have something in that selection, otherwise you will just get emptiness. Is this clear? Okay, anyway, what we were doing last time is actually composite elements together, which is have one thing get behind another when I have one image. So to illustrate this, I'm gonna go to the samples and open the Dune image. So this is just one image. What I want to do now is actually create things that are behind the mountain. For example, create a sun that's behind the mountain or anything. So just to illustrate it and make it easier, I'm just gonna get the ducky. I'm gonna add the sun, but it wouldn't make much sense to put it behind the mountain because it should be a bit higher up the sky because of the blue sky. So I'll just add the sun somewhere and just create the ducky and put it behind the mountain but in front of the sky. So again, to select the ducky, I'll select the white color with the magic wand. Control Shift I to inverse the selection, or select and inverse. We talked about this before. And I'll just drag it over there. And yeah, you might also face the following problem. Let's say that you had an empty layer and you try to bring it there. You're not going to get anything also because the layer is empty. Right? So make sure that whenever you drag something from one image, that you have the proper layer selected, or there is something on the actual layer. Alright, so anyway, there's the duck. Control T to scale it down. I'm pressing Shift and Alt. Shift to constrain the proportions, and Alt to scale it, but it would stay centered to where it is when I press Alt. Otherwise, if I don't press Alt, it will change position. It's not a big deal, but in case you want to keep it in the same place, you would press Alt. Shift to constrain the proportions. So let's say something like this. I'll press Enter. So now I'm going to actually introduce you to something new that we haven't talked about before, which is the layer effects. And this is found under F. So here I have the duck selected. I'm going to click on F. I want to make the duck glow. You know what glow is. To have a bright halo around it. So this effect is called outer glow. So I'm gonna select the layer and click on F for layer effects, and I'm gonna choose outer glow. There are many effects, we'll talk about them in detail later. For now, outer glow, and I get the outer glow options. So here, if I press Ctrl plus to zoom over and space bar to pan around, I see the actual glow, but it's not very strong. So what I can do is increase the size to make the duck glow with a bigger size. I can increase the opacity to make it stronger. I can spread it out to make it thick, or reduce the spreading to make it thin. I don't really increase that all that much because it will look very fake. So I'll keep this to a minimum, the spread value. So that's the glow for the duck. Another thing I want to make it look like is actually brighter, just the duck. So with the duck layer selected, I'll press Ctrl M, which is like going to image adjustment and curves. And here I'll brighten up so that it's pretty bright, something like this. Because I want to make it look like it's actually the duck rising instead of the sun, behind the mountain. So now the big question is, how do I actually get it behind the mountain? Because it's just one flat image. First, I'll hide the duck layer. Muhammad, you're already late and you're talking while I'm explaining. What I need to do is go to my background layer here and select the sky, cut it from the background layer, place it on its own layer. Then I would have two layers, and therefore I can place the duck in between the two. That's the logic. So I go to my magic wand tool. I click to select. If I press shift, I'll be adding to my selection. So every time I click on a color, it will be added to the selection. Of course, I won't click on the brown because that will be selected too. I just click on the white and blue colors, and those are the only ones that will be selected. So now, with the magic wand, I selected the sky. I'm gonna choose Edit Cut or Ctrl X to remove this from this layer. So that way, the sky will be removed from this layer. So now it's gonna be filled with the background color, which is green. I'm gonna actually undo because I don't want the green. And I have left a very small white part here, a blue part here. So I'm gonna actually add this with the plus also. I don't go all the way down because that would be adding the brown. So something like this. Zoom over to make sure that you have a good selection. So what I'm gonna do is select the brown, double click on the background layer to turn it into a regular layer. So once it is a regular layer and I cut something from it, it will not be replaced with the background layer, it will stay empty because it's a regular layer. So if I choose Edit Cut, you see I'm not gonna have the green, which happens to be my background color, anymore. If I press Ctrl V, I'm gonna have it as its own layer, which I'm gonna also move into place. Now I need it to be exactly where I got it from. For that, I need to go to View and Snap. Snap will make things stick together. So I will easily regain the original position of the sky. You see, without Snap, it's a bit of a game of chance to get it really where it should be, because it's not sticking to the borders. The image here is not sticking to the borders. If I go to View and Snap, then I'll go like this, and it's gonna stick directly to the border. See what happens when I get close. You see, it snaps. When you try it, you will see. If I zoom over, and I go like this, it snaps to the border. So now I have a perfect fit. It's as if I didn't take it out in the first place. So now I rename my layers. I'll call this sky, and I call this dunes. Dunes are mountains of sand. So let's show now the duck. But of course I have to be in the duck layer. If I move it, again nothing happens. I need to place it between the sky and the dunes. That way it will come out between the two. So I'll click on the layer and drag it down between the two. So now I get something, but it's the opposite of what I want. Who knows why? Yeah, I need to place the sky at the bottom, actually, and then the duck, let's call this duck, in the middle between the two, yeah. So I'll go like this now. So now, I'll be placing the duck behind the mountain. Alright? Now, there is one thing that I left out, which is this line of blue. I'll tell you how to remove this now. But that's the way how I would actually do this. So I'm gonna recombine the two layers together. We're done with the exercise, but I'll show you how you can actually get the proper selection. Let me do it on another file. Yeah, it should be here. Okay, I'll do it on another file, but that's the way how you can place two objects or one object between two other objects in another image.